Breaking news from Westminster that's sending shockwaves through British politics. Nigel Farage just asked one question on live television that Prime Minister Keir Starmer couldn't answer. And what happened in the 90 seconds that followed has triggered the biggest political crisis Labour has faced since taking office. I'm going to show you the exact moment everything changed. The question, the silence, the meltdown, and the cascade of events that followed. But first, if you want to understand what's really happening behind the headlines in British politics right now, hit that subscribe button, because this story is developing by the hour, and the next 72 hours could determine the future of this government. Here's exactly what went down. Yesterday afternoon at 2:34 p.m. during a live BBC debate, Nigel Farage stopped discussing policy entirely. He turned his chair to face Keir Starmer directly and brought up a specific case that's been making headlines across the UK for the past 3 weeks. Ahmed Khalil, a foreign national with a criminal record, was released back onto British streets instead of being deported under new Home Office guidelines. Just days after his release, he was arrested and charged with attempted murder in Birmingham. The victim is a 19-year-old woman named Emma. She's currently in intensive care fighting for her life. Farage looked directly at the Prime Minister and said this: "You had the legal authority to deport this man. Your government chose not to. Emma is now in hospital on life support. Will you look into that camera right now and apologise to her parents?" What happened next was extraordinary, complete silence. For 7 full seconds, Keir Starmer sat frozen. His expression shifted from confidence to visible discomfort. His eyes moved to his notes, his mouth opened, but no words came out. 7 seconds doesn't sound like much, but on live television in front of millions of viewers, it's an eternity. When he finally responded, it wasn't with an apology, it wasn't with empathy, it was with political language. He said, "Well, Nigel, that's a very unfortunate situation, of course, but we need to look at the broader context of our immigration system and the complex legal frameworks that govern deportation proceedings." He never said Emma's name. He never looked at the camera. He looked down at his notes and delivered bureaucratic talking points. Farage didn't let it slide. That is not an answer. That is avoiding the question. A 19-year-old girl is in a hospital bed fighting for her life, and you're talking about legal frameworks. Yes or no? Will you apologise to her family? Starmer tried again, this time turning to the debate moderator as if seeking rescue. I think what we need to understand is that there are complex considerations involving human rights legislation, and we cannot simply... Farage cut him off, louder this time. Human rights for foreign criminals. What about Emma's rights? What about the rights of British citizens to be safe in their own country? That's when Starmer lost his composure completely. His face flushed red. He raised his voice, pointed a shaking finger at Farage and shouted, "I will not be lectured about safety by someone who has never had to make these difficult decisions." It was a catastrophic response, not because he showed emotion, but because he attacked Farage personally. Instead of defending his own government's decision, he made it about himself, not about Emma or public safety. Every political analyst watching knew immediately what they were witnessing. A Prime Minister unable to defend the indefensible. But here's where this story gets even more significant. Starmer's team knew this question was coming. 3 days before the debate, Farage's office sent a standard courtesy notice listing discussion topics. Right at the top, criminal deportation policy and public safety. They had 72 hours to prepare a response. 3 full days to craft something that sounded both compassionate and firm. According to sources who spoke to The Times, senior advisors specifically warned Starmer that Farage would likely use a recent case to attack him emotionally during the debate. They ran through this exact scenario in rehearsal sessions, and Starmer dismissed it. One aide reported that he waved his hand and said, "Farage is all bluster. I can handle him with facts and figures. The public doesn't care about individual anecdotes." That arrogance destroyed him on live television. Within 30 minutes of the debate ending, Emma's parents released a statement through their solicitor. It was brief, it was devastating. It read, "Our daughter is fighting for her life because this government chose to protect her attacker instead of removing him from this country." The Prime Minister had 7 seconds of silence on national television. We have had 3 weeks of silence from Downing Street. No apology, no explanation, no accountability. That statement was read live on BC News, Sky News and ITV within the hour. Social media exploded immediately. The hashtag Emma Deserves better hit 1.6 million tweets in just 4 hours. Photos of Emma spread across every platform, a bright teenager who dreamed of becoming a veterinary nurse, images of her smiling at her school graduation, and beside those photos, images of hospital equipment, tubes, machines keeping her alive. Every person looking at those images understood the reality. A government had prioritised procedure over protection, and a young woman was paying the price. But the crisis doesn't stop with Emma's case. While Starmer was sweating under studio lights yesterday, another British citizen was experiencing the consequences of Labour's policy priorities in real time. Meet James Peterson. He's 71 years old. He served his country in Northern Ireland during some of the most dangerous years of the Troubles. After his military service, he worked in a steel mill for 3 decades. He paid his taxes on time for half a century. For the past 9 months, James has been living in constant pain. His hip is severely damaged. He can barely walk from his bedroom to his bathroom. His life savings have slowly drained away paying for private painkillers just to get through each night. The NHS waiting list kept pushing his surgery date further back. Last week, his surgery appointment finally came through. He packed his hospital bag for the first time in months. He felt relief. Then his phone rang. The operation was cancelled. Emergency capacity issues, they told him. But here's what broke him. That same week, local reporters revealed that his hospital trust had just allocated £340,000 to provide medical support services for a nearby asylum seeker processing facility. New arrivals were receiving immediate healthcare, dental checkups and mental health services upon arrival. Meanwhile, James Peterson, who defended this country and paid into the system for 50 years, sits at home in agony. His wife, Margaret, spoke to reporters through tears. I found him crying in the kitchen yesterday morning. Not because of the physical pain, he was crying because he felt like he didn't matter anymore, like his service meant nothing. The contrast is impossible to ignore, and it's resonating across the country. A government that claims there's no money to clear NHS waiting lists somehow found £700
in the biggest
million
democratic exercise in the history
but
of...
a British veteran who served his country can't get a hip replacement. Then something truly unprecedented happened. At 4:15 p.m. yesterday, King Charles broke 70 years of royal protocol. During a veterans charity event in London, he was scheduled to make brief formal remarks and then leave, but he didn't leave. Instead, he stayed for 45 minutes. He sat down with veterans in attendance. He listened to their stories about NHS delays, about feeling abandoned by the system they once served. Then King Charles walked to the podium, set aside his prepared speech entirely, and said words that will echo through British history. Those who have given so much to this nation deserve to be treated with the dignity and priority their service has earned. We must never forget who built this country and who defended it. Never. He was looking directly at the camera when he said it, almost as if he were looking straight into number 10 Downing Street. Palace insiders have since revealed that King Charles had personally reached out to Downing Street 3 separate times in recent weeks, quietly asking them to prioritise veterans in NHS care allocation. 3 times, Starmer's team dismissed his concerns, so Charles took his message public. Before leaving the event, he made an announcement that stunned everyone present. The Royal Foundation would immediately allocate £10 million from the Duchy of Cornwall funds to provide private medical care for veterans facing critical NHS delays. Hip replacements, cancer treatments, surgeries that men like James Peterson had been denied for months. The announcement received a standing ovation. Tears streamed down the faces of elderly veterans and their families who had felt completely
in the biggest
invisible.
democratic exercise in the history of
horror, because the King had just done exactly what the elected government had refused to do. He put British veterans first. Within 2 hours, the financial markets reacted. The pound dropped against the dollar and euro. By late afternoon, £2.4 billion had been wiped from the FTSE 100. Within four hours, that loss had doubled to nearly £5 billion. The Bank of England had to issue a rare evening statement expressing confidence in UK economic stability. Think about that. Why would the central bank need to issue that kind of statement unless confidence in government stability was actively collapsing? Inside the Labour Party, the cracks have exploded into open fractures. Transport Secretary Louise Haigh, who just last week publicly called Farage's immigration concerns racist scaremongering, deleted her entire Twitter account yesterday. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper cancelled 3 scheduled television interviews. When reporters tried to question her outside Parliament, she declined to comment and left quickly. Then came the polling data. Labour's lead over Reform UK, once a comfortable 18-point cushion, collapsed to just 4 points in a single afternoon. In the Redwall constituencies that Labour won back in the last election, Reform UK is now polling ahead by 6 to 8 points. In Birmingham, where the attack on Emma took place, over 3,000 people marched to the city centre. They weren't extremists. They were mothers, pensioners, working people, many of them lifelong Labour voters who now feel betrayed. Inside Labour headquarters, the atmosphere has turned toxic. Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner was reportedly overheard saying, "The Prime Minister isn't listening to anyone anymore." Chancellor Rachel Reeves allegedly stormed out of a strategy meeting yesterday after Starmer rejected her advice to announce emergency deportation measures. She was later seen in the Commons tea room meeting privately with backbench MPs taking notes in a small notebook. Political veterans know exactly what that means. She's counting votes, assessing support, preparing for a potential leadership challenge. Yesterday evening, Labour MP John Ashworth was caught on a hot microphone speaking to a colleague. He said, "He's finished. We're just deciding whether to let him bleed out slowly or finish it quickly." Sources say Starmer knows he's surrounded. He looks exhausted and increasingly isolated. This morning, he reportedly demanded written loyalty pledges from his top ministers. It's the behaviour of a leader who knows his time is running out. But the most explosive revelation is still developing. Leaked documents obtained by multiple media outlets suggest the Home Office has been systematically misleading the British public for months about deportation policy. In one internal email dated March 15th, sent from a senior Home Office official, explicitly states, in cases where deportation eligibility is borderline, err on the side of allowing the individual to remain. The minister has made clear that the optics of deportation flights matter more than raw numbers. If these documents are authentic and multiple sources are now confirming elements of them, then Starmer didn't just make a policy mistake. His government created a deliberate policy that prioritised political image over public safety. Meanwhile, while Starmer hides from media, Nigel Farage is doing the opposite. Last night in Birmingham, he held what is now the largest Reform UK rally in the party's history. Over 5,000 people packed the venue. "The British people deserve a government that puts them first," Farage told the crowd. "Not last, not after illegal immigrants, not after foreign criminals, first." The crowd wasn't just angry. They were hopeful. For the first time in modern British political history, Nigel Farage isn't just the protest vote. He's becoming a legitimate governing alternative. The latest comprehensive polling confirms it. Conservatives are at 29%. Labour has dropped to 23%. Reform UK is at 26%. If a general election were held today, no party would secure a majority. Britain would face a hung parliament and complete political uncertainty. The next 72 hours are absolutely critical. Reform UK has formally called for an emergency parliamentary debate on deportation policy and public safety. Labour leadership is trying to block the motion, but backbench Conservative MPs are threatening to support it regardless. And Buckingham Palace just announced that King Charles will deliver an unscheduled address to the nation next Tuesday. The specific topic hasn't been announced, but Palace insiders are indicating it will concern national unity, shared values, and the responsibilities of leadership. This isn't just a political scandal anymore. This is a constitutional crisis developing in slow motion. At its centre stands Keir Starmer, a Prime Minister living on borrowed time, a man who thought he could ignore voters and face no consequences. He was wrong. So here's the real question. Does Keir Starmer survive the weekend, or is his government already finished? What comes next? A leadership challenge from within Labour, an early general election? I want to hear your analysis. What do you think happens in the next 72 hours? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. If this breakdown opened your eyes to what's really happening in Westminster, share this video, send it to someone who needs to see it.